Deho wiped the grease from his hands and stared at the broken engine in front of him. Another 12-hour shift at the repair shop. Another day of barely making enough money to pay rent. His back hurt, his fingers were numb, and he was tired of fixing other people's ships while dreaming of the stars he would never reach. The message came while he was closing up the shop. His old communication device beeped, showing an official notice from Chen Legal Services. Deho almost deleted it, thinking it was spam. Nobody sent him official messages. Nobody even remembered he existed most days, but something made him open it. The message was short and formal. His uncle, Professor Kang Min-soo, had been declared legally dead after 20 years of disappearance. Deho had inherited something. The lawyer wanted him to come to their office immediately to discuss the details. Deho sat down heavily on his work stool. Uncle Min-soo, he barely remembered the man. Min-soo had been his father's older brother, a brilliant scientist who worked on secret government projects. When Deho was 8 years old, Min-soo had vanished during a research mission. His parents never talked about it much. The family just accepted he was gone, and now 20 years later Deho owned something that belonged to a ghost. The next morning, Deho took the transit shuttle to the legal office in the city center. The lawyer, a thin woman with sharp eyes, handed him a data pad with the inheritance details. Deho's hands shook as he read. 1 spaceship, 1 robot, both located in orbital Junkyard 7. That was it. No money, no house. Just a broken ship and an old machine in a forgotten corner of space. The lawyer explained that Professor Min-soo had set up the inheritance years ago with specific instructions. Everything belonged to Deho now, but there were conditions. He had to go see the ship himself. He had to accept it in person. Deho wanted to laugh. A spaceship? He was a mechanic who fixed cargo haulers and transport shuttles. He had never owned anything bigger than his tiny apartment. What was he supposed to do with a ship? But the lawyer gave him a travel voucher and coordinates. The choice was his. 3 days later, Deho found himself on a supply transport heading to orbital Junkyard 7. The junkyard was exactly what it sounded like. A massive collection of dead ships, broken satellites and abandoned space stations floating in the darkness. People sent their trash here when it was too expensive to haul back to Earth. The junkyard manager, a grumpy old man named Pak, met Deho at the docking bay. He chewed something that made his teeth dark and spat into a container. "You here for the Kang ship?" Pak asked. "Yes," Deho said. "Been sitting here for 18 years. Paid up storage until last month. Was about to scrap it." Pak handed Deho a keycard. "Docking bay 12. Don't blame me if you find rats. Or worse." Deho walked through the narrow corridors of the junkyard station. Everything smelled like old metal and recycled air. Other workers ignored him, busy with their own salvage operations. Docking bay 12 was in the oldest section of the station. The door was stuck and Deho had to force it open with a crowbar he borrowed from a supply closet. Inside, the bay was dark except for a few emergency lights, and there it was. The Cheonsa. Deho stood at the entrance and stared. The ship was bigger than he expected, maybe 60 meters long. It had the design of old exploration vessels from before the war, with smooth lines and elegant curves. But years of neglect had taken their toll. Dust and cosmic debris covered every surface. One of the landing struts was bent. Several hull panels were missing. Still, there was something beautiful about it, something that made Deho's heart beat faster. He climbed up the loading ramp, which groaned under his weight. The main airlock was sealed, but the keycard worked. The door hissed open, releasing stale air that smelled like chemicals and old plastic. Inside, the ship was a tomb. Everything was dark and silent. Deho turned on his portable light and walked through the corridors. The crew quarters were empty. The galley had plates still sitting on a table, as if someone had left in the middle of a meal. Papers and data pads were scattered everywhere. His uncle had lived here, worked here, and then vanished. Deho made his way to the cargo hold. The doors were partially open and he squeezed through. His light swept across the darkness until it landed on something standing in the corner. A robot. Deho jumped back, his heart pounding. The robot was humanoid, about 2 meters tall, with a dented metal body and scratched paint. Its head was slightly tilted to one side. Optical sensors in its face were dark and lifeless. "This must be Unit 07, the robot mentioned in the inheritance." Deho approached carefully. He had worked on robots before, mostly simple models that handled cargo or basic repairs. This one looked different, more advanced. Its design was old but sophisticated. He found the power port on the robot's back and connected his portable battery. Nothing happened for a long moment. Then slowly, lights began to flicker inside the robot's chest. Its optical sensors glowed with a soft blue light. The robot's head straightened. It turned to look directly at Deho. "Hello, Kang Deho," the robot said in a voice that sounded almost human. "I have been waiting for you." Deho stumbled backward. "How do you know my name?" "Your uncle told me about you before he left. He said that one day someone from his family would come. He said you would be the one." The robot took a step forward, its movement surprisingly smooth for such an old machine. "My designation is Unit 07. I am here to help you." "Help me with what?" Deho asked. "With the ship. Your uncle left specific instructions. The Cheonsa belongs to you now, but only if you can make it work again. I know every system on this vessel. I can teach you everything." Deho looked around the dark cargo hold, then back at the robot. "This ship hasn't flown in 20 years. It would take months to repair. Maybe years. I don't have that kind of time or money." "Your uncle believed you could do it," Unit 07 said. "He chose you specifically. He said you had his talent for understanding machines. He said you would know what to do when the time came." Something in the robot's voice made Deho pause. It was not speaking like a normal service robot. There was emotion there, personality, something deeper. "What else did my uncle tell you?" Deho asked quietly. Unit 07's optical sensors brightened slightly. "He told me many things. But first we must restore basic power to the ship. Then I can show you what he left behind. There are secrets on this vessel, Deho. Secrets that people have died to protect. Your uncle trusted that you would understand." Deho felt a chill run down his spine. He looked at the dark corridors of the ship, at the dusty equipment, at the mysterious robot standing before him. His uncle had disappeared 20 years ago. Now Deho stood in the dead man's ship being told about secrets and mysteries. He should leave. Go back to his simple life fixing engines and scraping by. This was too strange, too dangerous, but something in him refused to walk away. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was the desperate hope that his life could be something more than endless work and empty days. "Okay," Deho said finally. "Show me where to start." Unit 07's optical sensors seemed to glow brighter, almost like it was smiling. "Follow me. We have much work to do." As Deho followed the robot deeper into the Cheonsa, he felt like he was crossing a line he could never uncross. His old life was behind him now. Whatever lay ahead, there was no going back. Deho woke suddenly in the middle of the night. Something was wrong. The ship's lights were flickering and he could hear a strange humming sound coming from deep within the Cheonsa. He jumped out of bed and ran toward the engine room. The humming grew louder as he got closer. When he reached the main corridor, he saw Unit 07 moving at incredible speed through the maintenance tunnels. The robot's movements were nothing like before. It was not walking. It was almost flowing, its body moving with precision and grace that seemed impossible for any machine. Sparks were flying from a damaged power conduit. The ship's reactor was overloading. If it was not stopped quickly, the entire vessel could explode. Deho tried to reach the emergency controls, but Unit 07 was faster. The robot's hands moved in, a blur, rewiring systems and rerouting power with speed that no service robot could achieve. Within seconds, the overload was contained. The humming stopped. The light stabilized. Deho stood frozen, staring at the robot. "What just happened? How did you do that?" Unit 07 turned to face him. For the first time since they met, the robot seemed uncertain. Its optical sensors dimmed and brightened several times, as if it was struggling with some internal decision. "I believe it is time I told you the truth," the robot said quietly. They sat together in the ship's small galley. Unit 07 stood across from Deho, its metal hands resting on the table. The robot seemed almost nervous if such a thing was possible. "My name is not really Unit 07, the robot began. "That is just the designation of this body. My real name is Yunji, Dr. Han Yunji." Deho blinked in confusion. "You are a person? A human?" "I was," Yunji said softly. 20 years ago, I was a xenolinguist working with your uncle. We were partners on the expedition that discovered the archive. But things went terribly wrong." Yunji told the story slowly, her voice filled with pain and memory. The expedition had been going well. Professor Minsu and Dr. Yunji led a small team exploring an uncharted sector of space. They were following clues about the architects, an ancient civilization that supposedly existed millions of years ago. They found a derelict station floating in the darkness. Inside were incredible discoveries, evidence that the architects were not just one species but a coalition of many advanced races. The station contained maps to something called archives, scattered throughout the galaxy, but they were not alone in their discovery. An unknown alien force attacked the station. The team's ship was damaged badly. Several crew members died in the initial assault. During the escape, Yunji was struck by weapons fire. The injuries were catastrophic. She was dying, and there was no medical facility within reach. She had maybe an hour to live. Professor Minsu made a desperate choice. He had been researching consciousness transfer technology for years, partly out of scientific curiosity, and partly because he dreamed of preserving human minds. The expedition ship carried an experimental neural scanner and an advanced robot with a sophisticated processor, Unit 07. Your uncle asked me if I wanted to try, Yunji said, her robotic voice trembling slightly. He said it might not work, that I might die anyway or worse, become trapped in a state between life and death. But I was dying already. I had nothing to lose. The procedure was rushed and imperfect, but it worked. Yunji's consciousness, her memories and personality were uploaded into Unit 07's neural matrix. Her human body died, but her mind survived in the robot's processor. At first, I did not know if I was really me or just a copy, Yunji continued. I felt different. My thoughts were faster but stranger. I could not feel physical sensations anymore. No taste, no smell, no touch in the way I remembered. But I was still myself. Still Yunji. Daeho sat in stunned silence, trying to process what he was hearing. The robot he had been working with for weeks was actually a human woman trapped in a mechanical body. After the transfer, your uncle and I escaped, Yunji said. We spent years running from people who wanted the archive location, different factions, human corporations, alien scouts. Everyone who learned about the architects wanted to claim their technology for themselves. Professor Minsu kept Yunji's true nature secret. To the outside world, she was just a robot. This protected her from those who might want to experiment on her or destroy her as an abomination. Together, they worked to locate the actual archive using the data they had recovered. It took years, but they finally found it. The archive was hidden in an uncharted sector, protected by technology that still functioned after millions of years. But before they could reach it, they were tracked by mercenaries working for powerful interests. Professor Minsu made another hard choice. He hid the Cheonsa in the junkyard, encrypted all the location data, and went into hiding to draw attention away from the ship. He planned to come back, Yunji said, her voice barely above a whisper. He promised me he would return and we would finish the mission together. But he never came. Years passed. I waited here in the dark, powered down, hoping every day that he would walk through that door. And then the legal notification came. He was declared dead. Daeho felt his throat tighten. I am sorry. Your uncle was my closest friend, Yunji said. Maybe more than a friend. We spent years together on this ship, just the two of us against the galaxy. He never saw me as just a robot. He always treated me as human, as Yunji. She looked down at her mechanical hands. I think he felt guilty for what happened to me, for putting my mind in this body. But I never blamed him. He saved me in the only way he could. They sat in silence for a while. Daeho looked at Unit 07, at Yunji, with completely new eyes. This was not just a sophisticated machine. This was a person who had suffered and sacrificed everything for a mission she believed in. Why did you not tell me this from the beginning? Daeho asked. Because I needed to know if you were trustworthy, Yunji replied. If you were patient and kind, or if you were greedy and impatient. Your uncle believed you were good, but I had to see for myself. These past weeks, working together, I have watched you. You are like him in many ways. Stubborn, clever, and more concerned with doing the right thing than the easy thing. Deho felt a warmth in his chest, despite the heavy conversation. So what exactly is the archive? My uncle's journal mentioned it, but he was not specific. Yunji's optical sensors brightened with what might have been excitement. The archive is a repository of knowledge left by the architects, but it is not just technology blueprints or weapon designs. It is history, philosophy, art, science, and wisdom from dozens of extinct civilizations. She explained that the architects were not a single species. They were a coalition of advanced races who realized they were facing extinction. Something called the Silence was spreading across the galaxy, causing intelligent species to destroy themselves. The exact nature of the silence was unclear, but it seemed to be connected to technological transcendence. Civilizations that reached a certain level of advancement would suddenly turn on themselves or simply vanish. It happened again and again throughout galactic history. The architects understood they could not stop the silence, so instead they created the archives. Massive knowledge vaults hidden throughout the galaxy, containing everything they had learned. The hope was that younger species, in future ages, would find these archives and learn from the mistakes of the past. The archive is not just about gaining power, Yunji said seriously. It is about understanding what went wrong, about learning which technologies are dangerous and which ones can help species survive and grow. Deho absorbed this information slowly. And my uncle wanted to find this archive to protect it? Yes. He believed that if governments or corporations got there first, they would hoard the knowledge for themselves, use it for weapons or profit. He wanted to make sure the information was shared properly, used wisely. Yunji leaned forward. That is why he left everything to you. He believed you would make the right choice when the time came. What choice? Deho asked. Whether to keep the archive secret, destroy it, turn it over to authorities, or find a way to share its knowledge with everyone. Yunji's voice was intense. This is not just about humans. The archive was meant for all intelligent species. Your uncle dreamed of a galaxy where young civilizations could learn from ancient mistakes and build something better together. Deho stood up and walked to the galley window, looking out at the other wrecks floating in the junkyard. His simple life as a mechanic felt like it belonged to someone else now. Everything had changed. Do you want to finish the mission? He asked. After everything that happened, after losing your body and waiting 20 years, do you still believe in what my uncle was trying to do? Yes, Yunji said without hesitation, more than ever. I have spent 2 decades in this body, isolated and alone, thinking about what happened, about all the people who died during our expedition, about the knowledge waiting in the archive, about the potential for good or terrible harm. Your uncle was right. Someone needs to make sure the architect's legacy is used properly. Deho turned back to face her. And you think I can do this? I am nobody, just a mechanic from a repair shop. Your uncle was just a professor. I was just a linguist. None of us were heroes when we started, but we became what we needed to be. Yunji stood up, her robot body casting a shadow on the wall. You have proven yourself already. You worked for weeks to restore this ship, not for money. The first week was the hardest. Deho had to quit his job at the repair shop, which meant no steady income. He sold most of his belongings and moved his few remaining possessions to a storage unit. The junkyard manager, Pak, agreed to let him sleep on the ship for a reduced docking fee. Every morning, Deho woke up in the cold crew quarters of the Cheonsa. Every morning he wondered if he had made a terrible mistake. But Unit 07 kept him going. The robot was an excellent teacher. It knew the ship's systems better than any manual. Together they started with the basics. First, they restored emergency power to the reactor. Then they fixed the life support system so Deho could breathe without a portable oxygen supply. After that came water recycling, heating, and basic lighting. It was slow, exhausting work. Parts had to be salvaged from other wrecks in the junkyard. Systems that should have taken hours to repair needed days because of age and damage. Deho's hands were constantly covered in grease and cuts. But gradually the Cheonsa came back to life. One section at a time, the lights turned on. The air became warm and clean. The corridors stopped feeling like a tomb and started feeling like a home. During the long hours of work, Unit 07 told stories about Professor Minsu. The robot's voice would become softer, almost nostalgic, when it spoke about Deho's uncle. He was brilliant, Unit 07 said one day while they were rewiring the main control systems. Not just intelligent, but creative. He could see solutions that others missed. He never gave up even when problems seemed impossible. Deho tightened a connection and wiped sweat from his forehead. Why did he disappear? The family was told it was a research accident. Unit 07 was quiet for a moment. It was not an accident. It was a choice. Your uncle discovered something important. Something that powerful people wanted to control. He had to hide. Hide from who? I cannot tell you yet. You are not ready to know. The robot's optical sensors dimmed slightly. Your uncle made me promise to reveal things slowly. Only when the time is right. This happened often. Deho would ask questions about his uncle, about the ship's past, about why everything felt so secretive. And Unit 07 would give partial answers or change the subject. It was frustrating. But Deho was starting to trust the robot. Unit 07 never lied to him. It just held back information, waiting for something. One afternoon while working in the engine room, Deho noticed something strange. Unit 07 was repairing a complex power conduit that should have been impossible for a standard service robot. The movements were too precise, too fast. The technical knowledge was too advanced. Deho stopped working and watched. You are not a normal service robot, are you? Unit 07 paused, its mechanical hand still holding the tools. What makes you say that? Everything. The way you move, the things you know. Service robots do not have personalities like yours. They do not tell stories or remember feelings. Deho stepped closer. What are you really? The robot set down its tools carefully. I am what your uncle made me. That is all I can say for now. Please trust me, Deho. When the ship is more functional, I will explain everything. I promise. Deho wanted to push harder, but something in Unit 07's voice made him stop. There was a sadness there, a weight of secrets that seemed almost painful. Okay, Deho said quietly. I trust you, the work continued. 3 weeks became 4, then 5. The Cheonsa slowly transformed from a dead wreck into something that resembled a working ship. The engines were still offline, but most other systems were functional. During this time, Deho explored every corner of the vessel. He found his uncle's personal quarters, which were surprisingly simple. A bed, a desk, shelves full of books and data pads. Minsu had lived alone on this ship for years. Deho read some of the books. They were about xenobiology, alien languages, and ancient civilizations. His uncle had been obsessed with first contact and alien cultures. One evening, Deho was going through a drawer in the desk when he found a small data pad hidden under false bottom. His heart raced as he activated it. The screen showed a journal. His uncle's journal. Deho spent the next several hours reading. The entries were scattered and sometimes cryptic, but a story emerged. Professor Minsu had been part of a secret research team exploring unknown regions of space. They were looking for evidence of ancient alien civilizations, and they found something. The journal called it the Archive. According to Minsu's notes, it was some kind of knowledge vault created by an ancient species called the Architects. The archive supposedly contained technology and information that could change everything humanity knew about the universe. But the mission went wrong. The team was attacked. People died. And Minsu escaped with the location data for the archive hidden somewhere on his ship. The last entry in the journal made Deho's blood run cold. They are hunting me. The corporations, the military, maybe even aliens who want the archive for themselves. I cannot let them find it. I have hidden everything here on the Cheonsa. Only someone I trust can finish this mission. Only someone who understands why knowledge must be protected, not exploited. I hope that person is you, Deho. I am sorry to burden you with this, but there is no one else. The future depends on someone making the right choice. Deho sat in the dark quarters, the data pad trembling in his hands. His uncle had not just left him a ship. He had left him a responsibility, a secret that people had killed for. He found Unit 07 in the cargo hold running diagnostics on some equipment. I found my uncle's journal, Deho said. The robot turned to face him. I see. He wrote about the archive. About ancient aliens and people hunting him. Deho's voice was shaking. Is it true? Is that why he disappeared? Unit 07 was silent for a long moment. Then it nodded slowly. Yes, it is all true. And you knew this whole time? Yes. Deho felt anger rising in his chest. Why did you not tell me? I have been working on this ship for weeks and you let me think it was just a regular inheritance. Because you needed to choose this for yourself, Unit 07 said calmly. If I had told you everything immediately, you might have run away out of fear, or you might have stayed out of greed. Your uncle wanted you to commit to the ship first, to understand its value before learning about the burden that comes with it. Deho wanted to argue, but he knew the robot was right. If someone had told him on day one that he was inheriting a ship full of dangerous secrets, he probably would have walked away. What happens now? Deho asked. Now we need to open the sealed cargo holds. That is where your uncle hid the most important items. But first we must make a decision. Unit 07 stepped closer. Once we open those holds, there is no going back. People will eventually notice this ship becoming active. They will come asking questions. You need to decide if you want to continue your uncle's mission, or abandon everything and try to return to your normal life. Deho thought about his normal life. The tiny apartment, the endless repair work, the feeling that he was wasting his potential, fixing other people's machines instead of building something meaningful. Then he thought about his uncle, a man who sacrificed everything to protect something important, a man who trusted that his nephew would make the right choice. Show me the cargo holds, Deho said. I want to see what my uncle was protecting. Unit 07's optical sensors brightened. Very well. But I must warn you, what you are about to learn will change your life forever. You will become part of something much bigger than yourself. I understand. They walked together through the corridors to the lower deck. There, behind a reinforced door, were 3 cargo holds that Deho had not been able to access. They were sealed with military-grade locks that required special codes. Unit 07 approached the control panel and entered a long sequence of numbers. The locks clicked open one by one. The door slowly slid to the side, revealing darkness beyond. Deho took a deep breath and stepped inside. Unit 07 activated the lights. The cargo hold was filled with equipment, scanning devices, excavation tools, specimen containers, everything needed for xenoarchaeology research. But what caught Deho's attention was the large container in the center of the room. It was a biological stasis pod. What is that? Deho whispered. Samples from the expedition, Unit 07 said quietly. Your uncle found organic material at an ancient site. Evidence of alien life. He brought it back here for study but never had the chance to analyze it properly. Deho moved closer to the pod. Through the frosted glass, he could see something inside. Something that looked organic but alien in a way that made his skin crawl. There is more, Unit 07 said, gesturing to another section of the hold. Your uncle also recovered data cores from the site. They contain partial maps and codes related to the archive. Everything needed to find it is here. Deho turned to look at the robot. And what did my uncle want me to do with all this? He wanted you to finish what he started. To find the archive and make sure its knowledge is used wisely. Not hoarded by governments or corporations, but shared in a way that benefits all species in the galaxy. That is impossible, Deho said. I'm just a mechanic. I do not know anything about ancient aliens or galactic politics. Your uncle was just a scientist, Unit 07 replied. But he learned. You can too, and you will not be alone. I will help you. Deho looked around the cargo hold at all the equipment and secrets his uncle had gathered. He felt overwhelmed, terrified, and strangely excited all at once. The morning after Unji revealed her true identity, Deho sat in the ship's control room staring at star charts. He could not sleep. His mind was spinning with everything he had learned. The woman trapped in a robot body, the ancient alien archives, the dangerous mission his uncle had started. Unji found him there an hour later. You should rest, she said gently. I cannot stop thinking, Deho admitted. About my uncle. About what happened to him. You said he went into hiding to protect the ship, but how did he die? Do you know? Unji was quiet for a moment. Her optical sensors dimmed. I do not know the details. The legal notice only said his body was found in a remote colony on the edge of human space. Natural causes, they claimed. But I do not believe it was natural. Your uncle was careful, paranoid even. He knew people were hunting him. You think someone killed him? I think he was being watched. Maybe for years. When he finally stopped moving, stopped hiding, they caught up to him. Unji's voice was heavy with grief. Or maybe he really did die naturally. He was not young anymore, and the stress of running must have been enormous. Either way, he died before he could come back here, before he could finish what we started. Daeho felt anger rising in his chest. These people who were hunting him. Who are they? Many different factions, Yunji explained. The biggest threat is probably Talon Corporation. They are a massive human megacorporation that deals in advanced technology and weapons. They have been searching for architect sites for decades. Your uncle had several close calls with their agents. And what about alien species? Are they looking for the archives too? Some are. Most species in the galaxy do not know about the architects. The knowledge is kept secret by those who want to control it. But there are rumors, legends. Some alien groups would kill for proof that the architects existed. Yunji moved to stand beside Daeho, looking at the star charts. That is why we must be careful. Once we start moving, once we power up the engines and leave this junkyard, we will attract attention. Daeho took a deep breath. Then before we leave, we need to know exactly what we have. You said there are 3 sealed cargo holds. We opened one and found the excavation equipment and biological samples. What about the other 2? Your uncle sealed them separately. Different security codes. I know where he hid the access information. Yunji turned toward the corridor. Follow me. They went to Professor Minsu's personal quarters. Yunji went straight to a wall panel and removed it, revealing a small hidden compartment. Inside was a data chip. Your uncle was clever about security, Yunji said. He did not trust computers with everything. Some information he kept in physical form only. She handed the chip to Daeho. This contains the codes for the remaining cargo holds and other secrets. But there is a catch. It will only activate if it recognizes your DNA. Daeho took the chip to the ship's scanner. He placed his finger on the reader and the chip glowed softly. Information began appearing on the screen. Codes, coordinates, and encrypted files. Together they returned to the cargo deck. Using the new codes, they opened the second sealed hold. This one was different from the first. Instead of equipment, it was filled with data storage units. Hundreds of them stacked carefully on shelves. Each unit was labeled with dates and location codes. Research data, Yunji said quietly. Everything your uncle learned during the expedition. Recordings, translations, analysis. This is years of work. Daeho picked up one of the units and plugged it into a portable reader. Images appeared on the screen. Strange symbols, unlike any human or known alien language. They were beautiful and complex, carved into ancient stone. The architect's writing system, Yunji explained. We spent months trying to decipher it. I was the linguist, so most of this work was mine. We managed to translate about 30% before the attack happened. More images showed ruins of massive structures on dead worlds. Cities that must have housed millions, now silent and empty for eons. Technology that looked both familiar and completely alien. How did they all die? Daeho asked, mesmerized by the images. We do not know exactly. The silence is mentioned in their texts, but always in metaphorical terms, like it was too terrible to describe directly. The best translation we managed suggested it was something they did to themselves. A mistake in trying to evolve beyond physical form. Daeho shivered. He put down the data unit and looked at the rows of storage. This is incredible. This information alone would change everything we know about galactic history. Yes, which is why your uncle kept it hidden. In the wrong hands, even just this data could be dangerous. Some of these ruins we documented might still exist. If corporations found them, they would strip mine them for technology without understanding the context or the warnings. Yunji's voice was firm. Knowledge without wisdom is dangerous. They moved to the third and final cargo hold. The last code was longer and more complex than the others. The door opened slowly, revealing a smaller space than the previous holds. Inside was a single large container in the center of the room. It was cylindrical, about 3 meters tall, with cooling systems and power connections. Frost covered its surface. What is this? Daeho asked. Yunji approached the container carefully. This is what your uncle valued most. What he was most desperate to protect. This is the real biological sample from the expedition. The container had a small window. Daeho looked through the frosted glass and gasped. Inside, suspended in some kind of preservative fluid, was something organic. But it was not just a sample. It was a body. Or part of one. It was clearly not human. The proportions were wrong, the structure alien. But it was also not like any species Daeho knew from the galactic community. This was something ancient, something extinct. Is this an architect? He whispered. We think so, Yunji said. We found this in a sealed chamber on the derelict station. The preservation technology was still working after millions of years, keeping the body in stasis. Your uncle believed that if we could study this, we might learn about the architect's biology, their evolution, maybe even find clues about what the silence really was. Deho could not look away from the body. It seemed peaceful, like it was sleeping rather than dead for millions of years. Have you studied it? Learned anything? No, your uncle wanted to, but he never had the proper equipment or safety measures. We did not know if ancient alien biology might carry diseases or other dangers. And we were always running, always hiding. There was never time. Yunji touched the container gently. He planned to bring this body to the archive. He believed that inside the archive, there would be information about the architects themselves. Ways to safely study them, maybe even technology to learn directly from this preserved consciousness if any remains. Deho felt overwhelmed. The weight of responsibility was crushing. He had equipment worth millions, research data that could rewrite history, and the body of an ancient alien that might hold secrets to the greatest mystery in the galaxy. I do not know if I can do this, he said honestly. This is too big, too important. Maybe we should contact the Earth government or the Galactic Council, or someone with actual authority. Yunji turned to face him. Your uncle considered that. He had friends in government, contacts in various agencies, but everywhere he looked he found corruption or faction fighting. The Earth government is infiltrated by corporate interests. The Galactic Council is a mess of species all competing for advantage. Everyone he trusted either betrayed him or was silenced. So what did he want? What was his plan? He wanted to reach the archive first, to understand what was there, and then to find a way to broadcast the information to everyone at once, make it public domain, impossible to control or monopolize. That way no single group could weaponize it or hoard it. Deho paced back and forth in the cargo hold. But how? Even if we reach the archive, how do we broadcast that much information? We would need incredible transmission power, access to major communication networks. That was the part your uncle was still working on when he disappeared, Yunji admitted. He had some ideas, but nothing concrete. He hoped that once we reached the archive, we would find architect technology that could help. They must have had ways to communicate across the galaxy. Deho stopped pacing and looked at Yunji. You keep saying we need to be careful, that people are hunting for this, but you also want to broadcast everything publicly. Won't that make us targets immediately? Yes, Yunji said bluntly. The moment we release the information, every faction in the galaxy will want revenge or will try to capture us for whatever we know. We will never be able to go back to normal life. Your uncle accepted that. He was willing to sacrifice everything for this mission. And you? Are you willing to sacrifice everything? You already lost your body, spent 20 years waiting. If we do this, you will be hunted forever. Yunji's optical sensors brightened intensely. I lost everything 20 years ago. My body, my career, my life as a human. All I have left is this mission. This purpose. I would rather die completing it than spend another 20 years hiding in the dark, waiting for nothing. Her words hung in the cold air of the cargo hold. Deho looked at the container with the architect's body, then at the rows of data storage in the other hold, then at Yunji's robotic form. His uncle had started something incredible and terrible, a mission that... 3 days after opening the sealed cargo holds, Deho sat in the Cheonce's cockpit trying to learn the ship's navigation systems. Yunji was patient, walking him through each control, but Deho felt overwhelmed. Flying a ship was very different from repairing one. You are doing fine, Yunji encouraged. Your uncle was not a natural pilot either. He learned through practice. Deho's hands gripped the controls tightly. How long did it take him? About 6 months before he felt comfortable. But we have less time than that. Yunji's tone became more serious. I sent out the coded messages yesterday. If G1 is going to respond, it should be within the next few days. As if summoned by her words, the ship's communication system beeped. An incoming message. Yunji and Deho exchanged glances. That was fast, Deho said. Yunji moved to the communication console and ran the message through security protocols. It is using one of the old codes. This is legitimate. She opened the message. A woman's face appeared on the screen. She was in her 40s with sharp eyes and short dark hair. She wore practical spacer clothing and sat in what looked like a ship's cockpit. This message is for whoever is trying to reach me using Professor Kang Minsu's old codes, the woman said. Her voice was cautious but curious. I am Park Ji-won. If you are who I think you are, meet me at the crossroads station in the neutral zone. I will be in docking bay 43 for the next 72 hours. Come alone or do not come at all. The message ended. Daeho looked at Yoonji. Is this safe? It could be a trap. Ji-won was trustworthy 20 years ago, but people change. We need to be careful. Yoonji thought for a moment. However, we cannot complete this mission alone. We need allies. Someone who knows the current political situation and can help us navigate safely to the archive. Can the Cheonsa make it to Crossroads Station? Are the engines ready? Basic flight systems are operational. We can make the journey, though it will not be comfortable. Many secondary systems are still offline. Yoonji's optical sensors brightened. But yes, we can go. Daeho made the decision quickly. Then we go, but we stay alert. At the first sign of danger, we run. The next day, they prepared the Cheonsa for departure. Pak, the junkyard manager, seemed surprised to see the old ship actually leaving. Did not think you would get her flying, Pak said, chewing his dark substance.
Your uncle always said she was special.
Guess he was right. Daeho paid the final docking fees and guided the Cheonsa out of the junkyard. His hands were shaking on the controls, but Yoonji provided constant guidance. Slowly, carefully, they navigated through the debris field and into open space. It was Daeho's first time piloting a ship. The sensation was incredible and terrifying. The stars stretched out in every direction. The Cheonsa responded to his commands, moving through space with a grace that surprised him. You are a natural, Yoonji said warmly. Your uncle would be proud. The journey to Crossroads Station took 4 days. During that time, Daeho practiced piloting constantly. Yoonji taught him about navigation, sensor reading, and basic defensive maneuvers. They talked about the mission, about his uncle, about what they hoped to find at the archive. Daeho also spent time going through his uncle's personal belongings more carefully. He found photos of Minsu with Yoonji back when she was human. They looked happy together, excited about their research. One photo showed them standing in front of the Cheonsa when it was new and clean, both smiling at the camera. You were close, Daeho observed, showing the photo to Yoonji. She was quiet for a long moment. Yes, we were. After the transfer, after I became this, your uncle never treated me differently. He still talked to me the same way, still laughed at my jokes, still asked my opinion on everything. Some people might have seen me as just a machine, but he never did. Did you love him? Daeho asked gently. I did. I still do, in whatever way I am capable of loving now. But we never spoke about it directly. There was always work to do, always danger to avoid. And after I became this, I was not sure if what I felt was real love or just programmed emotion. Yoonji's voice was sad. I will never know now. Daeho put the photo carefully away. I think he loved you too. Otherwise, he would not have tried so hard to save you. Crossroads Station appeared on their sensors on the 4th day. It was a massive structure, built in neutral space where multiple species' territories met. It was a trading post, meeting place, and haven for those who did not quite fit in anywhere else. The station was busy. Ships of all types and sizes moved around it like insects around a hive. Daeho felt nervous as he guided the Cheonsa toward docking bay 43. Stay in the ship, Daeho told Yoonji. If something goes wrong, get out of here. I cannot leave you behind, Yoonji protested. You have to. You are the only one who knows everything about the archive. If I get captured or killed, you need to find someone else to help. Promise me. Yoonji was silent for a moment, then nodded. I promise. But be careful. Daeho put on his jacket and checked that he had a small weapon hidden inside. He was not a fighter, but he was not completely defenseless either. He left the ship and walked through the station corridors. Crossroads Station was crowded and chaotic. Humans, aliens of various species, and robots moved through the passages. Shops and bars lined the walls. The air smelled like fuel, food, and too many bodies in too small a space. Docking Bay 43 was quieter. Only one other ship was present. A sleek courier vessel that looked fast and well-maintained. A woman sat on the loading ramp working on a data pad. Park Ji-won looked up as Daeho approached. She studied him carefully, her eyes taking in every detail. You look like him, she said finally. Same eyes. Same way of standing. You are Professor Minsu's family, his nephew, Kang Daeho. He stopped a few meters away, ready to run if needed. Ji-won stood up slowly. I knew your uncle. Worked with him on several information exchanges. He was a good man. I was sorry to hear about his death. She gestured to her ship. Come inside. We should talk privately, Daeho hesitated. Going into her ship meant putting himself completely in her power. But he had come this far. He had to trust someone eventually. He followed her inside. The ship was small but efficient, designed for speed and stealth. Jiwon led him to a small meeting room and offered him tea. How did you get Minsu's old communication codes? Jiwon asked directly. I inherited his ship, the Cheonsa, and everything on it. Daeho watched her reaction carefully. Jiwon's eyes widened slightly. The Cheonsa still exists? I thought it was destroyed or lost years ago. Minsu told me he had hidden it somewhere safe, but he never said where. It was in a junkyard. He left it to me in his will. And what exactly did you find on that ship? Jiwon leaned forward, her expression intense. This was the critical moment. Daeho had to decide how much to reveal. Yoonji had said Jiwon was trustworthy, but that was 20 years ago. He took a deep breath. I found information about the archive, about the architects, about what my uncle was trying to protect. Jiwon's face showed no surprise. So it is real. The rumors were true. Minsu actually found evidence of the architects. You knew about them? I work for the Galactic Heritage Foundation. We are dedicated to preserving ancient knowledge and making sure it benefits all species, not just the wealthy or powerful. We have been tracking rumors about the architects for decades. Jiwon set down her teacup. Professor Minsu contacted us years ago. He said he had found something incredible but needed help protecting it. We agreed to meet, but he never showed up. We assumed he was either dead or had decided not to trust us. He was being hunted, by corporations, by others. He was afraid that any organization, even one with good intentions, could be infiltrated or corrupted. Jiwon nodded slowly. He was right to be paranoid. The Foundation is good, but we have problems with internal politics and external pressure. If we had gotten the archive location, there is no guarantee we could have kept it secret. She looked at Daeho seriously. So why are you here? What do you want from me? Daeho made his decision. I want to finish what my uncle started. I want to find the archive and make sure its knowledge is shared properly, but I cannot do it alone. I need help. Someone who understands galactic politics, who knows the safe routes, who has connections. And you think I can provide that? My uncle trusted you enough to contact your organization. That is good enough for me. Jiwon stood up and walked to a window looking out at the station. The Foundation would pay a fortune for the archive location. We could provide security, resources, everything you need, but in return we would expect to control how the information is distributed. No deals like that, Daeho said firmly. My uncle wanted the knowledge to belong to everyone, not any single group. If I give you control, you are no different from the corporations. Then what exactly are you proposing? Help me get to the archive. Provide a crew, navigation expertise, protection. In return, when we reach it and confirm what is there, we broadcast the core information immediately to everyone. No delays, no filtering, complete transparency. Jiwon turned to look at him. That is incredibly dangerous. The moment you broadcast that information, every powerful faction in the galaxy will want you dead. I know, but it is the right thing to do. They stared at each other for a long moment. Daeho could not read her expression. Was she considering betraying him? Agreeing with him? Thinking he was insane?